The Novali ship drifted silently through space, its sleek hull reflecting the distant stars as it approached the blue planet. Captain Ta stood on the bridge, his four eyes blinking rhythmically as he studied Earth through the main view screen. His pale skin had a slight purple tint under the soft lights of the command center. "Another primitive world," said Science Officer Rin, her slender fingers dancing across the control panel. "Preliminary scans show they've barely mastered basic space travel. Occasional ventures to their moon, a few probes to nearby planets. Nothing remarkable." Captain Ta nodded slowly. "And yet, Command insists this sector requires thorough investigation. These humans might be primitive, but something about them has caught the attention of our elders." The Novali ship settled into orbit, cloaking systems engaged to prevent detection by Earth's rudimentary scanning technology. They had been observing for 3 days when Rin noticed something unusual. "Captain, I'm detecting energy signatures on their fourth planet. Mars, they call it. The patterns don't match any known human technology." "Send a probe," ordered Ta. "Let's see what they're hiding." On Earth, Dr. Jin Lee yawned as she entered her laboratory at the Korea Advanced Institute of Science. The government had given her team a strange metal disc recovered by a private space mission to Mars. For weeks, they had made no progress understanding the artifact. Jin pushed her glasses up and examined the disc once more. It was perfectly circular, about 30 centimeters across, with intricate symbols etched into its surface. The material defied analysis. Not quite metal, not quite ceramic, unlike anything in Earth's periodic table. "One more try," she muttered to herself as she connected a new set of electrodes to the disc's edge. She applied a small electrical current, something they had tried dozens of times before. This time, the disc responded. It began to hum, a sound that resonated at a frequency that made Jin's teeth vibrate. Then it projected a holographic display of star charts into the air above her workbench. Jin gasped. The star positions indicated astronomical configurations from over 50,000 years ago. Impossible for any human civilization to have recorded. "Professor Min," she called out to her colleague in the next room. "You need to see this." Meanwhile, on Earth's moon, a team of miners from the International Lunar Resource Corporation had broken through into what they thought was a natural cavern. Engineer Park led the team of 5, their heavy boots leaving prints in the lunar dust as they entered the dark space. As their lights swept across the cavern, they froze in shock. "Control, you're not going to believe this," Park said into his comm. "We found a facility of some kind." Row after row of pods lined the walls, each containing what appeared to be a sleeping human. The pods were connected to sophisticated machinery that hummed with power despite the millennia of isolation. Park approached one of the control panels, wiping away the fine lunar dust that had settled on its surface. To his surprise, the panel illuminated at his touch, displays coming to life with information in a language that looked strangely familiar yet unreadable. "How is this possible?" he whispered. "These look like manufacturing dates from 50,000 years ago." One of the miners pointed to a pod nearby. "Look at her. She looks human. Completely human." Inside the transparent pod lay a woman, her skin perfect, her expression peaceful, as if she had fallen asleep yesterday rather than millennia ago. The control panel Park had activated began to flash, and a soft chime sounded throughout the facility. One by one, other panels around the cavern lit up in sequence. "What did you do?" asked one of the miners, backing away. "Nothing," Park replied, his voice trembling. "I just touched it." The first pod's covering slid open with a soft hiss, and the woman inside took a deep breath. Her first in 50,000 years. Back on Earth, Jin was explaining her discovery to government officials when the power in the building flickered. Across the city of Seoul, ancient systems buried deep underground surged to life, drawing massive amounts of electricity from the grid. Similar reports came in from Beijing, New York, Cairo, and dozens of other locations around the globe. Facilities that had remained hidden for millennia were awakening. In Russia, a mountain opened to reveal a hangar containing ships unlike anything humans had built. In the Sahara, a vast door in the sand exposed a stairway descending into a command center. Beneath the Pacific Ocean, lights began to glow in a city humans had never known existed. Aboard the Novali ship, alarms blared as their sensors detected the sudden energy spikes across Earth. "What's happening?" demanded Captain Tai. Rin stared at her readings in disbelief. "The technology activating on that planet, it's more advanced than our own." "Impossible," Tai replied. "They're primitives. They've barely left their own world." The main screen flickered, showing images from their probe on Mars. A massive structure was emerging from beneath the red dust, a facility that dwarfed any human construction. "Captain," Rin said quietly, "I don't think humans are what we thought they were." On the moon, the awakened woman sat up slowly, looking at the terrified miners with calm, knowing eyes. "The sleepers awaken," she said in a language that should have been incomprehensible to the miners. Yet somehow they understood. "Earth calls us home." All across the solar system, humanity's forgotten past was coming back to life, and the galaxy would never see humans as newcomers again. Ambassador Tai of the Novali shifted uncomfortably at the podium. His 4 eyes blinked nervously as he faced the assembled members of the United Earth Council. The Grand Chamber, with its high ceiling and curved walls displaying the flags of all Earth nations, felt oppressive to him. Humans packed the room, their faces showing a mix of fear, curiosity, and distrust. Behind him stood his own delegation, a small group of Novali whose purple-tinted skin and 4-armed bodies marked them as clearly alien. They had arrived on Earth expecting to find primitives. Instead, they found themselves humbled. "Esteemed representatives of Earth," Ta began, his translator converting his clicks and whistles into human speech. "1 month ago, my people came to your world believing ourselves to be among the first spacefaring civilizations. We thought we would find a young species taking its first steps into the cosmos." He paused, his upper hands gripping the podium, while his lower ones fidgeted with his ceremonial sash. "We were wrong. The artifacts we have found scattered across 17 worlds all point to the same origin: Earth. Technology far beyond our own, left dormant for countless millennia. Star charts from your Mars outpost match installations we discovered on planets we thought no living being had ever visited." A murmur ran through the crowd. Many still struggled to accept the revelations of the past month, that humanity had once been far more advanced, had traveled the stars, and then somehow forgotten its own legacy. Dr. Jin Lee approached the podium next, her lab coat crisp despite having worked through the night. Dark circles rimmed her eyes, but her voice was steady as she presented her findings. "The genetic evidence is undeniable," she said, bringing up a display that showed DNA sequences. "Modern humans did not evolve on Earth as we believed. Our species has been here far longer than our history records suggest." She clicked to the next slide, showing the stasis pods discovered on the moon. "From what we've learned, most of our ancestors entered hibernation roughly 50,000 years ago. The humans we are today, all of us in this room, are descended from maintenance crews who remained awake to monitor the sleeping chambers. Over time, as generations passed, they lost knowledge of their true purpose. They became tribal, forgetting technology, forgetting history." In the audience, world leaders shifted uncomfortably. The idea that human civilization was not the pinnacle of achievement, but rather the remnant of something far greater challenged everything they believed. "Why would they enter stasis?" asked the representative from Brazil. Jin looked to Ambassador Tai, who stepped forward again. "That remains unknown," he admitted. "But whatever caused such an advanced civilization to hide itself must have been formidable indeed." Later that day, Dr. Jin stood in an underground chamber beneath Seoul. The facility had activated itself 1 month ago, drawing power from the city grid to begin revival processes for its ancient occupants. Captain Han of Earth Defense stood beside her, his uniform impeccable, his expression guarded. He hadn't fully trusted the Novali, and he wasn't sure he trusted these ancient humans either. How many are waking up? He asked, watching technicians monitor the first stasis pod scheduled for complete revival. Just this one for now, Jin replied. Until we understand more, the World Council wants to proceed carefully. The pod in the center of the room hummed softly as its revival cycle neared completion. Inside lay a woman who appeared to be in her 30s, though her true age was measured in millennia. The nameplate identified her as Duri, Xenolinguistics Division. Her vital signs are stable, reported a medical technician. Brain activity increasing to normal levels. The pod's cover slid open with a soft hiss. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Duri's eyes fluttered open, dark, alert eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. She sat up slowly, her movements graceful despite 50,000 years of inactivity. The medical team approached cautiously, but she waved them away, focusing instead on Dr. Jin and Captain Han. The Cedars, she whispered in an Arctic dialect that the linguistics team had only partially decoded. Have they returned yet? Jin exchanged glances with Han before stepping forward. We don't understand. Who are the Cedars? Duri's eyes widened as she studied Jin more closely. You don't know. She switched to a different dialect, one closer to modern Korean. How much have you forgotten? We know very little, Jin admitted. We discovered the pods only a month ago. Duri closed her eyes briefly, as if in pain. Then it has been as we feared. The maintenance crews lost their history. She swung her legs over the side of the pod, ignoring the protests of the medical team. How many worlds have humans reached in this era? Just our moon and Mars, Captain Han replied. We've sent probes farther. Duri looked shocked. Only that far. After all this time, she shook her head sadly. And the other species, the ones we seeded, have you encountered them? The Novali arrived recently, Jin explained. They're the first aliens we've met. To their surprise, Duri laughed bitterly. They are not aliens. Not really. She gestured toward a computer terminal. Show me your genetic databases. I can prove it to you. After she was given access, Duri's fingers flew across the interface with surprising familiarity. Your technology is primitive but workable, she commented as she pulled up human DNA alongside samples taken from the Novali. Look here, she pointed. These sequences, and these, modified, adapted for different environments, but the base code is the same. Jin leaned closer, her scientific training allowing her to see what should have been obvious. They're human, modified. We seeded many worlds. Duri explained softly. Humans adapted for different planets, different conditions. The Novali are your cousins, not aliens. We created them, just as the Cedars created us. Captain Han's communicator beeped urgently. More pods are activating, he reported after checking the message. Worldwide. They're all waking up. Duri nodded grimly. Then it is beginning again. The cycle restarts. What cycle? Jin asked, suddenly afraid of the answer. The cycle of creation and destruction. Duri replied, looking up at the ceiling as if she could see through it to the stars beyond. If the ancient humans are awakening, then the Cedars, or their enemies, must be returning to our galaxy. Duri stood before the massive observation window on the International Space Station. Her dark eyes reflected the lights of Earth's ships as they carefully maneuvered alongside the larger Novali vessels. 3 months had passed since her awakening, and still the wonders of this new age both amazed and disappointed her. You've forgotten so much, she told Dr. Jin, who stood beside her. Duri wore simple modern clothes now, but something in her posture made her seem regal despite the casual attire. We didn't just colonize the stars. We created life. The Novali, the Brixians, all were engineered from human genetic material, adapted for different worlds. Jin watched a shuttle dock with one of the Novali ships. The meeting today would bring together representatives from both civilizations, along with more of the newly awakened ancients. It's hard for many to accept, Jin admitted, that we were once so advanced, and then fell so far. That these beings we thought were aliens are actually what? Our children. Dury shook her head. Not children. Cousins, perhaps. Different branches of the same tree. We took our own genetic material and reshaped it to thrive in environments where we could not. The Novali were designed for high-gravity worlds with toxic atmospheres. The Brixians for ocean planets. And did they know? Did they remember their origins? Some did, for a time. Dury's voice grew soft. But 50,000 years is a long time. Memory fades. History becomes myth. Myth becomes religion. Across Earth, more ancients continued to awaken from stasis pods. Special orientation centers had been established to help them adjust to the modern world. Some adapted quickly, fascinated by how humanity had developed in their absence. Commander Sun was one such ancient. He had been a military leader before the Great Sleep, but now he focused on building bridges between old and new. He learned modern languages with remarkable speed and embraced the cultures that had evolved during his long slumber. "Your music is extraordinary," he told a group of university students during a cultural exchange. "We had nothing like hip-hop or jazz. And your fusion cuisine. Korean Mexican food would have blown minds in my day." His enthusiasm and genuine respect made him popular with the public. News programs featured his insights, governments sought his advice, and people listened when he spoke of cooperation rather than dominance. General Nam, however, took a different view. He had awakened angry, viewing modern humans as failed descendants who had squandered their birthright. In his eyes, the Novelli and other engineered species were rightfully subject to human authority. "Your species came from us," Nam told Ambassador Ta during a tense diplomatic meeting at the United Nations. His voice boomed through the chamber, his tall frame rigid with pride. "Your worlds belong to humanity. You exist because we created you. Everything you have built stands on the foundation we provided." The room fell silent. Even Nam's fellow ancients looked uncomfortable with his declaration. Ambassador Ta rose slowly, his four eyes blinking in sequence, a sign of controlled anger among the Novelli. "We've built our own civilizations for thousands of years," Te responded, his translator conveying the steel in his voice. "We are not your property. If your kind abandoned the stars, that was your choice. We filled the void you left and made our own path." General Nam scoffed. "You wouldn't exist without our science." "And where did your science come from?" countered Ta. "From what Dury tells us, humans too were engineered by these cedars you speak of. Does that make you their property as well?" Nam had no answer for that. The meeting ended without resolution, but the exchange was broadcast throughout Earth and to 17 worlds beyond. The revelation of human origins sparked dramatically different reactions across the galaxy. On 5 Novelli colony worlds, protests erupted as their people grappled with their human origins. Some burned ancient artifacts that had suddenly been reinterpreted as human technology. Others formed religious movements that embraced their connection to Earth. On 7 other planets, including the watery home of the Brixians, ancient temples long thought dedicated to gods were revealed as monuments to human scientists. The great statues that generations had worshipped were, in fact, images of the genetic engineers who had crafted their species. Back on Earth, Dr. Jin found Dury in the library of the newly established Ancient Knowledge Center. The ancient woman was reviewing historical texts, her face troubled. "Your history books are full of wars," Dury said without looking up. "So much killing over land, resources, ideologies." Jin sat beside her. "Were things different in your time?" Dury closed the book. "No, that's what troubles me. We were more advanced, but not more wise. We fought amongst ourselves even as we spread across the stars." She looked directly at Jin. "It's why some of us fear what General Nam might do. Can he really cause problems? There are only a few thousand ancients awake so far. A few thousand who know the activation codes for weapon systems your modern society doesn't even know exist," Dury said quietly. "Nam was a military commander. He knows where the arsenals are buried." That evening, As Jin reported this conversation to the Earth Security Council, alarming news arrived from Mars. The ancient facility there had been seized by a group of awakened military personnel loyal to General Nam. They had activated defense systems that now prevented any ship from approaching the Red Planet. "This is only the beginning," Commander Sun warned the Council. "Nam believes he's reclaiming humanity's empire. If he reaches the seed vaults on Europa, he could create an army genetically engineered for absolute loyalty." Across the solar system, ancient facilities continued to activate. On the far side of the moon, a communications array powered up and began transmitting a signal toward distant stars. When asked about it, Duri's expression grew grim. "It's a beacon," she explained, "telling whoever is out there that humanity has awakened again." "Who would be listening?" Jin asked. "The Seeders, perhaps," Duri replied. "Or something much worse." The ancient defense station orbiting Proxima Centauri activated without warning. Its massive form, dormant for 50,000 years, hummed to life as power surged through systems that had waited patiently for this moment. Massive cannons extended from its hull, targeting the outer system with silent precision. The Novali research vessel that had been studying the station barely escaped as energy weapons charge, their purple glow casting eerie light across the station's scarred surface. The ship's captain ordered maximum speed back toward Earth, carrying news that would change everything. The officer worked frantically at his station, then nodded. "Got it. Decoding now." The message played through the command center, General Nam's voice filling the room. "To the entities approaching our systems, I am General Nam of Ancient Earth. I offer you the coordinates of all inhabited worlds seeded by humanity in exchange for sparing Earth itself. I can guide you to the richest energy sources, civilizations ripe for harvest. In return, I ask only that my world remains untouched, and that I be allowed to rule what remains." Silence fell over the command center. Captain Han turned to Commander Sun, his face pale. "He's betraying the entire galaxy." Sun nodded grimly. "And the worst part? The Void Eaters don't negotiate. They don't understand the concept. They only consume." Dr. Jin stared at the screen showing the approaching darkness. "Then what Nam's really done is give them a roadmap to every world with life." "We need to warn everyone," Captain Han said, already moving toward the communication station. "And we need a plan." Commander Sun looked thoughtful. "Perhaps this is the moment we prepared for. Not one species facing the threat alone, but all of us together, with our different minds, different technologies." "But we're nowhere near ready," Dr. Jin protested. Sun's expression hardened with determination. "Then we'll have to get ready. Quickly." Captain Han stood on the bridge of the Earth flagship Guardian, his eyes fixed on the view screen. Before him stretched a line of ships unlike any fleet in human memory. Vessels from 12 different species formed a defensive barrier at the heliopause, the boundary where the sun's influence began to fade into interstellar space. The ships varied greatly in design. Novali vessels resembled purple crystals, their hulls transparent in places to reveal the crew working inside. Brixian ships looked almost alive, their surfaces rippling with patterns that regulated temperature and energy flow. Human ships, both modern and ancient, formed the center of the line. "All ships report ready, Captain," said his first officer. Han nodded. "And the Void Eaters?" "Less than 6 hours away at current speed." Han touched his communication panel. "Dr. Jin, status of the integration systems." In the laboratory section of the Guardian, Dr. Jin worked frantically alongside engineers from 5 different species. They had spent 2 months combining technologies that had never been designed to work together. "Almost there," she replied, wiping sweat from her forehead. "The ancient human weapons systems are now successfully linked with Novali energy fields and Brixian biological computers. We're testing the final connections now." Nearby, Commander Sun oversaw the tactical displays. The ancient military leader had become the heart of their defense planning. "The Void Eaters will not expect unified resistance," he said. "In all our history, they've only encountered single civilizations fighting alone." Dr. Jin looked up from her work. "We are stronger together than we ever were apart," she told the united command crew as they prepared their desperate defense. "Each species brings something unique to this fight." The ships waited in tense silence as the darkness approached. First one star vanished from their sensors, then another, consumed by the advancing cloud of nothingness. General Nam's betrayal had cost them the element of surprise. By giving the Void Eaters a map to all inhabited worlds, he had accelerated their approach. Nam himself had not been heard from since his transmission. His ancient warship had disappeared, presumably consumed by the very force he tried to bargain with. "First contact in 30 seconds, announced the sensor officer. Commander Sun's voice came over the fleet-wide channel. "Remember your training. Maintain formation. Trust in each other." The Void Eaters struck without warning. Tendrils of absolute darkness reached out toward the leading ships, touching their hulls and instantly draining shields. A Novali vessel crumpled inward as its energy was sucked away. "Fire primary weapons," ordered Captain Han. The fleet responded as one. Beams of energy, projectiles of exotic matter, and fields of disruption force struck the darkness. For a moment, it seemed to retreat. Then it surged forward again, stronger and faster. The battle raged for 7 days. Ships were lost on both sides, though the Void Eaters had no ships to destroy, only their amorphous mass that seemed both endless and impossible to permanently damage. On the 3rd day, they discovered that Brixian sonic weapons disrupted the Void Eaters' ability to consume energy, but only temporarily. On the 5th day, a combined attack using ancient human gravity technology and Novelli phase shifting actually destroyed a portion of the darkness. By the 7th day, the fleet had been pushed back to Earth's orbit. Half their ships were lost, and the survivors were running low on power. The Void Eaters pressed their advantage, spreading throughout the solar system. "We need something more," Commander Sun said, his voice hoarse from days without rest. "Something that attacks them everywhere at once." Dr. Jin looked up suddenly. The outposts. The ancient human outposts spread across the galaxy. They're all connected in a network. She pulled up star charts showing hundreds of dots representing ancient facilities on distant worlds. "If we can activate them simultaneously, create a web of gravitational disruption." "It could work," Sun agreed. "But we'd need to send the activation signal from the central hub." "Which is where?" asked Captain Han. "The moon base," Jin replied, "where we found the first stasis pods." Hours later, as the Void Eaters began to encircle Earth itself, Dr. Jin stood in the control chamber beneath the lunar surface. Captain Han and a small team had fought their way through to protect her as she worked. "The network is responding," she said, her fingers dancing across the ancient controls. 50,000 years dormant, but still functioning. Across the galaxy, on worlds whose inhabitants didn't even know of their existence, ancient human outposts began to power up. Energy signatures flared to life on planets circling distant stars. "Now," Jin cried, pressing the final sequence. A wave of gravitational distortion spread outward from each outpost, creating a web that caught the Void Eaters in its mesh. The darkness writhed and twisted as conflicting gravitational forces pulled it in different directions. From the Guardian, Commander Sun watched in awe as the Void Eaters began to tear apart, their form unable to maintain cohesion under the strain. "It's working," he whispered. The battle ended not with a dramatic explosion, but with the gradual dissolution of the darkness. The Void Eaters, creatures of pure energy consumption, were torn apart by forces they could not consume or resist. Their remains scattered into harmless particles that drifted away into space. 3 weeks later, in the Great Council chamber on Earth, representatives from 27 species gathered to form a new alliance. Many were learning for the first time of their connection to humanity, discovering that they had been engineered from the same genetic foundation. Commander Sun stood before them, no longer just a relic of the ancient past, but a bridge to the future. "We were the first," he said, looking around at the diverse assembly, "but not the greatest. What your civilizations have built in our absence fills me with pride. We may have seeded the stars, but you have made them bloom." Ambassador Tai of the Novoli rose from his seat, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence. "Together, we have survived what none of us could face alone. Perhaps this is what your ancestors truly intended, not for humans to rule over their creations, but for all of us to become something greater together." The assembly erupted in approval. Over the next hours, they signed a historic treaty forming the Galactic Concord, a union of worlds bound by their shared origins and common future. As the ceremonies concluded, Dr. Jin found herself standing by a window overlooking the rebuilt city of Seoul. Commander Sun joined her, following her gaze to the stars now appearing in the evening sky. "What will you do now?" he asked. "Now that the immediate threat is gone." Jin smiled, pointing to a star map displayed on a nearby screen. It showed their galaxy, with vast unexplored regions still blank. "I don't think we're finished exploring quite yet," she said. "And this time, we'll do it together." The end.